Hi there, BookTube. It's Roz, and I've been a little bit quiet for the last couple of weeks on BookTube. January's actually been quite a tough month for me in the world of my work, and I won't talk about that. But when that happens, I keep reading, but I don't always make videos. And but I have some lovely books to talk about that I read in January, and I've got some exciting, for me, plans for February. So I'm gonna go on and do a couple of videos, and this one is my February plans, and I will try and make it kind of quite short and snappy. The reading may not be so short and snappy. I've got quite a few things I want to read, and some of them may kind of roll over into March. Who knows? I'm not going to beat myself up, especially because, as I say, work's a little challenging at the moment. I've got two things that are specifically kind of on a roll that started in January and will definitely carry on into March. And one of those is the reading I'm doing this year of the Odyssey, and also for the first 6 months of the year, I think I may spread it over. And the other is The Darkening Age, which is the book I'm reading for Historathon. But I will say no more about that for now, and look at the new things that I expect to read in February. Now, thinking of new, what about new fiction? Well, Tilly and I are reading a sort of a recent fiction book every month, again this year, like we did in 2024. And our February book is going to be Bellies by Nicole, Dinan. I don't know how she pronounces it. Presumably it's French style, so we'll say Dinan. There we go. And it's her debut novel, and it's a book about kind of like young love and then moving into young adulthood. So it's these two gay men who meet as students and kind of, become a couple. And then they're from very different backgrounds. One of them's Malaysian, the other's sort of classic British middle class, I suppose. One of them gradually identifies or emerges in their true identity, I suppose, finds their true identity as a trans woman. And this book is in part about what happens in their relationship when Ming makes that shift, as it were. Really looking forward to that one. As I am all my February reading, of course, so I don't know why I say that. Yesterday, I'm recording this on the 2nd of February, yesterday, the BookTube Prize first round octafinal groups were announced, and I found out that I am a judge for one of the fiction groups, and so that instantly pushes me into reading some more new fiction, recent fiction published in English, and with a bit of the BookTube Prize selection always has sort of a American, maybe Canadian, British, Irish sort of flavour as a rule. But it's all stuff from 2024. And I'm certainly going to read 2, probably 3 of the 6 books in my group in February. And one of those that is a book that was already on my kind of mental long list of things I wanted to read is Wild Houses by Colin Barrett. Now, he's an Irish short story writer, very sort of well thought of for writing short stories, but this is his debut novel. And it's set in rural Ireland. Well, there's a surprise, County Mayo, I think. And it's, from what I gather, it's a bit of a crime caper, but with the quality writing that's sort of on another level. Like a lot of short story writers, he is known for crafting a beautiful sentence and also tremendous dialogue, as I understand it. So that's Wild Houses by Colin Barrett. Then, secondly, there's a British author's 2024 novel, far from his debut. I don't know how many novels William Boyd has written now, but it's a stack. And this one, his most recent, is Gabriel's Moon, and again, my understanding of this is that it's sort of a spy novel, and it's sort of inspired, or it kind of kicks off with a journalist kind of being in some way linked to, and not responsible for, but aware of, sort of embroiled in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. So in the Congo, we're talking 1960s here, we're back in the 60s, and he's sort of, is drawn into the world of espionage, and the rest of the book kind of he's floating around Europe doing stuff. I've read various books by William Boyd before. I know this will be well written, gripping. I'm expecting something entertaining but skilled, in terms of its writing. Now, the third BookTube Prize book that I expect to read in February is newly published, but is also kind of backlist. Shall I explain? Okay. It's called Neighbours and Other Stories by Diane Oliver, and it was published in 2024 for the first time as a collection of short stories. But Diane Oliver actually died in 1966. About, I think, 4 of her stories were published kind of individually in her lifetime, a couple more posthumously, and then the rest of the ones in this collection had never seen the light of day. And so it's quite, exciting that they've been sort of pulled out of the shadows and put together in a book that we can read now. And why now? I think because I gather the stories are good. We'll see. Her writing style is good. She was only 22 when she died, so, a bit precocious. But she was a young black woman in America, sort of, writing in the 1960s. And I think they were written over the space of about 6 months. And so very much about that experience, about, the racism that you experienced as a young black woman in 1960s USA. So we shall see. So those are the 3 BookTube ones. So that's the 4 bits of new fiction. Now, as I say, that the 4th semi-backlist, full-on backlist, enjoyable backlist fiction that I'm reading this month is more Agatha Christie. I'm reading Agatha Christie kind of most months or every other month, maybe at the moment. It's a Memory of Alice giant bookshelf fame thing. But this month, I'm buddy reading an Agatha Christie from 1950, A Murder is Announced, with Sherry, who is a sort of someone I've met through sort of commenting and on Discord, who's a serious Christie enthusiast, as Alice was, and she picked for me one of her favourite Miss Marple novels for us to read together. So it's one that she's read several times and I've never read. So I'm chuffed to be doing that, and I know that will be a joy. Because Christie can be, when Christie's good, she's very, very good, and this is, I'm told, a good one recommended by someone who should know. So thank you, Sherry. Then I've also got some really exciting translated fiction that I'm going to be reading in February. And one is a kind of a reread, or I may just revisit it. I may not literally read every word, because that's the February book for our Reading the Globe contemporary fiction choice. And it's a group read experience. It's January was brilliant, reading clean, but I'll talk about that in my January wrap-up. This month, it's The Door of No Return, Beyond the Door of No Return, rather, by David Diop, who's sort of French-Senegalese author. I read it last year, so, quite recently, so I'll be picking it up again to share with the group. But I won't give too much away about it, because obviously, the group discussion is going to follow, as it were. But if you fancy joining us, I'll put the Discord link in the show notes, because the door is open. Read it and join in. But we're in 18th century West Africa, in kind of roughly what is now Senegal, where Diop originates from, but we're with a French botanist, and it's kind of like a fictionalized, reimagined account of the life of a genuine French botanist, but also about the people that he met and connected with, and the complexities of that when he was living and working in Senegal. So yeah, definitely worth your time and worth a look. Now, I'm also, hallelujah, reading some 3 others that are new to me and that I'm very much looking forward to, obviously. And probably the book of all the things, I always say, oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, or I'm excited about that. Probably the book that of all the things I'm going to be reading in February that I'm most excited about, okay, is this one. Oromay by Baalu Girma. This, now again, it's this backlist but new story again, because this was published in Amharic in 1983. Girma was a sort of a journalist, but then actually became a minister in the Ethiopian government, but obviously was his own person in terms of his opinions, and which was always going to be a challenging thing in the Ethiopia of the 1980s. And he wrote this book about the 1982 military campaign to crush, or attempt to crush, by the Ethiopian government, to attempt to crush the insurgents in Eritrea. Well, we've got an idea of where that went, haven't we? But he didn't know this at the point when he wrote this book. But almost as soon as it was published in Ethiopia, it was banned. And within months, Girma had disappeared. And this book was handed round in sort of, what's the word, kind of like black market copies in Ethiopia and so on, but has never been translated and made available in English until January 2025, when this translation came out. Very, very interested to find out more about this. Apparently it's a little bit macho, but full of action and kind of spies, government agents, so exciting plot and revealing of a time and a place, which is always something that interests me. The translators are David DeGusta, who's a American writer and translator, and Mesfin Felleke Yirgu, who was raised in Ethiopia, and Amharic is his native language. So a joint effort on the translation, which would be interesting, I think. Anyway, so I'm itching to read this and then tell you all about it and whether it's any good. If nothing else, I'm confident that it's going to be fascinating. So, what else in terms of translated fiction? There's 4 more things, I think. One is The Thorn Puller by Hiromi Ito. Now, curiously, I'm reading 2 Japanese novels this month in February, and both of them were published in Japan in 2007, and both of them had an English translation that was published in 2022. Entirely coincidentally, because I've come at them in 2 different ways. Because The Thorn Puller is the book that Sean Sean runs a bit of a sort of a book club amongst his patrons, and the Thorn is the book that we chose for this spring, and so we'll all be reading it and then get together to talk about it. And what can I tell you about it? It's semi-autobiographical, so it's in the Japanese novel tradition. The translators, I should always say that, and have I got? I'm having a horrible panic that I haven't written the translators down, so I will have to put the translator in the show notes, and apologies for that, because I always try to name translators, partly because, you know, I want to honour the work of translators because it's such a skilled and challenging profession, and a poor translation will ruin a book. However, I haven't got it written down, so I can't tell you. But it's Ito is a renowned Japanese author, particularly as a poet, but she's also known for her fiction and for her kind of essays. And it's about what is quite a universal issue, I suppose, now, but with an extra particular Japanese twist. Okay, and that's about being a sandwich carer, about having a family and children to care for, but also parents that are increasingly elderly and that need your care. And this sort of extra twist in this, because that's a situation that many of us, you know, find ourselves in, is that, you know, the protagonist, who is in effect Hiromi herself, is living in the States with her family, but her elderly parents are back in Japan, and she has to go back and forth between the two, juggling sort of time and geography and travel, but also two very different cultures. So that's the Thorn Puller. This is the other Japanese novel that I'm going to read, and again, I kind of didn't choose this myself. It was chosen by my in real life book group, and it's Fish Swimming in Dappled Sunlight by Riku Onda, and it was translated into English by Alison Watts. It's, how to describe this? My understanding is that this is kind of a crime novel, but not quite as simple as that. It's a sort of kind of a mystery, but with a psychological and slightly sort of almost horrific kind of element, because it's about a couple who it's sort of one night in Tokyo, in the life of this couple, they both think that the other one is a murderer, and over the course of the night we're going to find out more. What a great setup for a book. Sounds really good fun, doesn't it? It's the second book published in English translation by Riku Onda. Riku Onda is a prolific and very popular writer in Japan, apparently. But and the two books that are available in English are both published by Bitter Lemon Press. Now, I note that because Bitter Lemon Press is it's a UK indie publishing house that specialises in making available in English and kind of crime and thriller sort of books from around the globe. And I'm familiar with that because I've, with a group of other readers, been reading all the works of Claudia Piñeiro, the Argentine writer, who's kind of known for being sort of crime, although not solely a crime writer. And the first half of the translations of her books into English were all by organised by Bitter Lemon Press and published by them. And in February, we'll be getting to this one, Betty Boo. This is, I can't remember which number of her novels it is, but it's from 2011, and it was translated by Miranda France into English, published by Better Lemon Press in 2016. And, I'm really enjoying this, reading all of the output, or the available in English output of this Argentine writer. So, and when you do that, you kind of make a lot of comparisons between them, and you see someone's style evolve. And yeah, it's a pleasure. Also, a brilliant group that I'm reading it with. Wonderful, wonderful readers. So that's all the books I'm going to be reading. I also expect to read a play this month. Now, if you don't already know, Angelia of Read and Reread is doing a kind of a year-long read a couple of plays every month thing, and you can dip in and out of it as you like. And in February, the 2 plays that she suggested are A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansbury and Top Dog Underdog by Suzan Laurie Parks. And they're both Black American women playwrights, but Lorraine Hansbury was writing in the 1950s and Parks 2001. But and I've already read A Raisin in the Sun, and I have to say, if you haven't read that play, please do. Please, brilliant, wonderful, fascinating play. What an interesting woman Lorraine Hansbury was as well. But I won't go into that. But if you've never picked it up, it's relatively easy to get hold of, and absolutely strongly recommend it. The other, Top Dog Underdog, I know very little about, but I'm hoping to get hold of it through the Internet Archive, because it's not readily available in the UK in print, and join in with that. So that's my February plans. Quite ambitious. We'll see how it goes. As I say, some of them may roll into March. I hope you're planning a lovely month too. And if you've read any of these and you can give me an opinion, or if you'd like to read any of them, let me know.